What's up, Hall Financial fam? It's Bogey here at Keller Williams Lakeside. Going to sit down with Mike Gale. We'll talk everything real estate. What is 2020 looking like? If you're a first-time home buyer, what should you be nervous about? What are the things you should consider? We'll talk about it all. Look forward to a lot of great content coming your way.
You kind of have to hone them in on the right properties as you learn, what they want, what they need.
Hey guys, it's Bogey. We're here at Keller Williams Lakeside, and I am alongside Mike Gale. And we got a lot to cover today. Of course, we'll get into the real estate landscape, what 2020 is going to look like, and a lot of tips and different tricks maybe that you can find when you're looking to purchase a home, maybe move, whatever it may be. Now, Mike, I guess we can just start with how long have you been a realtor? What made you kind of want to do something like this?
3 years, but I came from a foreclosure law firm, so decided to get into the happier side of real estate rather than taking homes, trying to help people find their new homes or sell their current home. So,
what's the biggest piece of advice I guess you would give somebody who is trying to go out and maybe purchase the first home?
First home buyers, I would say get pre-qualified. Contact your realtor, lender, and get those things kind of in a row.
Now, as far as, obviously they say, one of the bigger pieces of advice, and you just said it, which is perfect, is to go and make sure you get pre-approved. Why is that so important though, for a first-time home buyer specifically, before they start looking?
Because you really don't have any information of what you can afford, where to start looking. Price point's huge with that. You could think that you can afford this and find out these are a lot more expensive or a lot more inexpensive, depending on your area and stuff like that. So it just gives you a good starting point.
Is it important for people to realize, okay, while you get approved for, the max amount that you could potentially get, it's important to budget, and maybe you don't want to get a house that, you can afford and you are approved for, but if you live a certain kind of lifestyle, you want to go out, you want to be going on vacations, you don't want to have a mortgage that is weighing you down. How much, I guess, do you weigh and give advice on that?
Nobody wants to be house poor. You don't want to change your lifestyle to, move to this. You want to be able to have a beer with your friends and not say, hey, I have to make a mortgage payment. Sorry, I can't go have that beer. So while you may be approved for $300,000, doesn't mean you have to spend $300,000. Trying to find something that's gonna let you accommodate the lifestyle you're used to is huge. So I always recommend, to figure out what it is. With rates being super low right now, it helps you, but a budget is a huge must. And coming from a foreclosure background, that's what we're trying to avoid. So living beyond your means, kind of the American way, but we try to avoid that as much as possible.
They say that you can't do a daily coffee. If you do a daily coffee, you're just throwing money away, like $3, $4 a day. I can't get rid of that, but it is what it is.
Right.
When you're talking to clients and people are reaching out to you to look for a home, life goes through stages. We were talking before, we sat down, and it's like, well, gosh, I'm getting a little bit older. You have 2 kids. I'm not there yet.
Right.
But you have different stages in the home buying process. Starter home, maybe your next level home, forever home potentially. Is that important in getting to know clients, where they're at and what stage of life?
100%. Generally, if you have a home to sell, you're going to be able to have a little bit more for that down payment and move on to a little bit more expensive home. So it's nice to have that equity built up in a previous investment to help you capitalize on the next one. But definitely knowing your clients is helpful.
Millennials, a big topic of discussion, I feel like, in any walk of business these days. How have you seen that generation and maybe the generation to follow kind of change the mortgage industry? Some younger people will look at it. I know I was one a couple of years ago when I bought a house. There's some nerves that comes with buying a home, and some people can feel like, oh my gosh, this anchor weighing me down.
Right.
It really isn't as scary, I guess, as it turns out to be. You don't have to have a 20% down payment. There are other ways to go about doing it.
100%. There's programs. There's minimums usually 3.5% for FHA, 3% for conventional. So there's definitely ways to get that. And I think with any age group, it's but more information is better than not. So it's just educating your clients to what programs or how they can obtain what they want.
Now we're here inside Keller Williams Lakeside, but you did say this is only a smaller building. There is actually a bigger building. So what's, I guess, separates Keller Williams Lakeside, what you guys bring to the table, and what another, realtor real estate company could?
With close to 400 agents working for us, we have a great network to reach out to. Also having multiple locations is, easy for closing, stuff like that. But I think the thing that separates Keller Williams Lakeside from everyone is just clients first, staying true to that, and our technology is second to none with Keller Williams, period. So we have a lot good going for us.
Without getting too technical, what you mentioned technology. What specifically, I guess, are you guys utilizing to take that next step?
We have Keller Williams built-in CRM that helps us stay in touch with our clients. We have coaches and everything that helps us with social media, so we're present there. And we're moving more away from, I think, an older style of doing stuff and trying to stay in touch with, like you said, millennials and the younger generation that's coming up, because that's, a big part of our population now.
It's scary to think that I'm a part of the future
right.
of this whole thing. But social media obviously playing a major role in everything, business-wise, real estate, no different. I guess, how do you guys go about utilizing social media to, not only get to know your clients and obviously generate business, but to promote your brand and what you're trying to do with this client-based company?
Social media is huge. Everyone's addicted to their phones, tablets, everything else. So I try not only to drum up sales and stuff like that, but just keep people informed, tell them what's out there, what's available, and just kind of stay in front. You don't have to make a dollar. You can just answer questions, be a good human, and do things that way, so that when people come to that time, they think about you, how you helped them, stuff like that.
I got to believe that's important when you talk about the relationship that you have with the client. When you get to a point where maybe this isn't the best property for them or the best area. Maybe that's, it's a little bit out extending themselves over their skis if they want to be able to have money on the side to do other things. Having that trust where, they can look to you and go, well, what do you think, Mike? Is this really the best thing for me? How I guess, do you go about, talking them out of something that might not be a good idea for them?
So you can't really, I try never to make the decisions for them. You just try to relay the information the best way you can to let them make their own decision. I never want to be the reason why you chose not to do something or chose to do something. I don't want to be the person that, you have buyer's remorse and, you're the one that told me, so no one wants that.
Mike Gale,
right?
Calling him.
100%.
He's the reason.
So just try to give them the information so they can make up their, a well-informed decision on their next thing. That's our job, is to kind of lay everything out there, make sure you don't make any mistakes, stuff like that, negotiating, as long as it's within market value, stuff like that. That's our job, and to give you the information to make the decision yourself.
That brings along, I guess, the inspection process, knowing, what potentially is wrong with the house, what things to avoid. I'm assuming it's a meticulous process. And I don't know that you're on your hands and knees, in the attic or anything looking for, critters, but I mean, that is a very important aspect to make sure that you're crossing off the things that, the regular people out there, home buyers, don't really know.
So when it comes to inspection and stuff like that, I'm not an inspector, so I can point out a few things here and there because I'm in and out of houses all day. But I can recommend one. You can Google search, you can find your inspector. The gentleman I use, Matt, he's the one that's going to be crawling through an attic, crawling through a crawl space. I generally try to stay out of there as much as possible. So we can definitely point you in the right direction and make sure that you're buying a good home. But some homes, you can buy a fixer-upper, and as long as you know in advance and you have to budget for this, or you have that it's the unexpected we're trying to avoid.
Now, we were talking a few minutes ago, and you really do have to, I guess, find out what type of person you are. Are you more the person that wants to fix up a home? Are you more the person that wants that turnkey? I can't do anything. I don't know anything about anything. So I needed turnkey. I moved in the next day right after I got the keys. I didn't want to paint. I didn't want to,
Right.
put in a countertop. I didn't want to do any of that. Do you, I guess, have to identify, are people more, willing to do that? Do you want to do that? Has that changed, I guess, over the years where people don't want to be working on?
Yeah, I think we're a disposable society. So I think a lot of people, want turnkey, want move-in ready. We kind of shy away from. Doesn't mean that there's still people that are going to want the fixer-upper. You can save a little bit of money. It's more of an investment that way instead of paying at or above market price nowadays because the inventory is so low. But you definitely have to identify that, see if they're willing to. And like my first house, I thought I was more willing than I ended up, bought the house and realized that I was in over my head type deal with the projects that we had. So again, you can hire it, but you have to make sure that you have that time, that money to invest into that home.
It just never stops.
No,
Once you buy a house,
100%.
there's always something
Right.
to do.
That's
There
why
really
it's
is.
a 30-year mortgage, right? So you have 30 years to
Exactly.
make it complete.
And instant gratification as you slowly figure out how to fix things, because you do. I mean, look,
Right.
I've had my house for 2.5 years, and you do slowly figure out, okay, well, I've done this before, at least something similar. Go on YouTube.
I would say
take a
YouTube
peek.
is huge, 100%. Yeah. And when you see like the price of doing things, do you want to spend $5,000 on a painter, or do you want to possibly have a glass of wine and do it yourself?
I hear that that's actually a very reasonable way to do it.
Right.
I won't say who told us that. Winter obviously in full swing, although it's been a much milder winter this year, thankfully for now.
Right.
This is, though, a good time to buy. I know a lot of people look out, it's dreary, it's disgusting. I was somebody who bought my house in the winter, the off-season technically. Why is it an advantage for a buyer to buy now as opposed to waiting for the busier season?
Less competition, one. With the rainy season, you can tell if, basement comes in and has water, 2 inches of water on the floor, you instantly know that, you have a wet basement. If it's dry and everything's going well, you haven't had rain in 2 weeks, really hard to find out if that basement, leaks. So there's definitely pros and cons. But I'd say number one is just less competition. Market's kind of at a, lull. So prices are standing still instead of going up. 2018, 2019, we had crazy summers, things going over appraised value, multiple offer situations that make it very competitive. So right now is a great time for a buyer. And same thing with sellers, if you have a good house priced right, you can still potentially sell that house instead of shying away from, the downtime.
You mentioned 2020, obviously 2019, the last few years, it's been unbelievable, burgeoning market, and I'm no expert on it. Obviously, I would yield to you on that, but 2020, what is the outlook? Does it look similar? Could there be a step back?
You can hear an answer from all the experts either way. I thought 2019 was going to slow down from 2018. Clearly I was wrong. 2020, it seems like the houses that are in the market, if they're a good, well-priced house, they're still going quickly. So I don't see why it's going to change. I don't know that it's going to be as hot as 2019. It's hard to compete with that. But, with interest rates low, low inventory, I don't see why we're going to slow. It seems like everything's headed to be a good year for everyone. So we're hoping for the best.
It can be an exciting process, also a stressful process when you're talking about the home buying experience. For me, it was very easy. First property I went into, loved it, couldn't stop thinking about it, saw 4 or 5 other ones, kept thinking about this one. I was like, let's go see that again, ended up going with it. That doesn't happen for a lot of people. I have friends who went through 30, 40, 50, 60 homes, spent years trying to find the right property. How do you, maintain patience with people? Because it can be a frustrating process when it's supposed to be fun. Right?
It's just, you have to put yourself in their shoes. A lot of times when you're looking at multiple houses, it's not you, the realtor, finding the houses for them. It's them thinking that, oh, we'll take a look at this one. So when you're doing searches and talking to them about it, you kind of have to hone them in on the right properties as you learn, what they want, what they need, stuff like that. Doesn't mean that, a property that doesn't necessarily fit the bill isn't the right one. I sold a friend a house in Elmont that I never would have thought that her and her husband would want, and they love the house, So you have to give them the opportunity to see these things because they don't know. They don't go into as many houses as you do. So it's just, like I said, kind of back to being a good human. You can't stress out, just, you're along for the ride. This is how you earn your money.
Downtown Detroit going through, certainly a change, a renaissance, if you will. How has that affected, the surrounding areas of Metro Detroit? Has Have we seen a ton of growth? Are people wanting to move closer to the city, outside? Is there a big change yet, or not really?
I don't think so. I think that the change is in Detroit itself. I don't think it's necessarily affecting the suburbs unless you come from like an out-of-state relocation. It makes it, a little bbit easier to convince people to come here now that we have a thriving downtown. We have a lot going on. But for the people that are here, this is just our norm. So I don't think it's necessarily affecting the suburbs quite so much, but definitely great for Detroit as a whole.
Is there one, commonality? You meet with a client, maybe you sit, you have coffee, love coffee, lunch, whatever it may be. Is there one question that you get more than anything else about the home buying or home selling process?
I would say just for first-time home buyers especially, you have down payment and like what out of pocket do I have to come up with? There's the down payment, and there's also lender fees, appraisal, all this stuff that
everyone
adds
wants
on.
to take your money. Yeah,
100%, 100%. So it's just kind of letting them know and setting them up for success instead of being blindsided by these fees. We talked about inspection. Comes out of the buyer's pocket, so that's $400, $500, whatever it is that they may not know going into it. Okay, I have to set this aside. I have to have this liquid cash.
The next thing I wanted to make sure that we hit on, once you actually get to the point where I'll use my own term, the end zone. You're right there, you're ready to buy, you want to make this happen. Do you have a technique? Do you have a certain thing that you say you want the client to do before they go, okay, yes, 100%, we're all in, we're ready to sign the papers? A final thing to think about, sleep on it, something like that.
Depending on the market, you might not have time to sleep on it. You find the right house. What I always tell people, you can walk into a great house, it's turnkey, but you can't see your life happening there. It just doesn't fit. You don't know where your furniture is going to go. You don't know where your morning routine is going to happen. When you walk in, like you said, you knew, you went back to that house. When you see yourself living there, everything's kind of working out in your head, then that's a good house to, move on. As far as time, it depends on the market, depends on the house. If it's been there for 120 days, then yeah, you probably have a night to sleep on it. It's been listed for, a couple hours and there's 12 cards on the counter of other people that showed it, probably don't have the night to sleep on it. So sometimes it's about, being the first offer, a good offer. So it really depends on the property, depends on you.
Well, and it's important to know too, you're never going to find, and this was one thing that was impressed upon me when I was looking, even though it was much easier, but you're not going to find the perfect house.
100%.
Everything's not going to be there for you. There's going to be things either you got to fix up, replace, or maybe add on to eventually, down the line. How critical is that in identifying, what can you live without and what can you, live with?
Yeah, that's something as a realtor you have to explain to your client that, in life, nothing's perfect, right? So house is no different. And, what are you going to be able to, again, we don't want to talk about buyer's remorse. We don't want you to buy a home. It's going to be your largest investment. And we don't want you to hate it, obviously. So when they express something wrong with it, okay, well, here's the pros, here's the cons. Is this okay, or should we keep looking? It's, again, part of the deal.
I feel like there's a rent buy debate that goes on, especially with younger people. I know we've hit on that quite a bit, but I was somebody who rented, past, through my mid-20s, and you just get to the point where you go, kind of throwing my money away. I'm not going to get any of this back. It's going to rent and it's gone. Whereas with a home, I know some people will look at it and go, well, that costs a lot. In reality, it can end up saving you. Are you seeing the rent buy debate starting to change a little bit?
With rental prices pretty high, I think that it's not even a debate anymore. It's if you can qualify and you can afford to buy, the down payment is the huge part in saving up. But a lot of times it's hard when you're young and renting and paying $1,200, $1,500 a month. Do you have the extra income to save for that down payment? So coming up with a means for the money down or a different avenue to get that is the hardest part. But when you're comparing rental, even in down markets, what I've explained to some of my buyers, if you get something back, even if it was 80% of it, at least something. You hope for not, you hope that you're making a good investment and 5 years you're going to be able to sell for 30% more than you bought in the perfect world. But obviously, I think that buying is the way to go. Rental, I mean, for some, you have to, and there's still that market, but with interest rates so low, housing prices aren't out of whack everywhere. They're not super high. They're still affordable homes. So why wouldn't you want that little piece of American pie type deal?
For buyers and for sellers, open houses, it's almost like, you see in the movies or something, there's always this open house and there's cookies being made and hey, if you want something to drink,
right.
Yeah, there's right here on the island, whatever snacks you want, let me know if you have any questions. Have you found that open houses more beneficial for buyer seller? Is that a successful way of going about it?
I think there's a place for it. I don't think it's one way or another. I think a lot of times it's more beneficial for the realtor than it is for the seller or buyer. It's a way for us to meet potential buyers for our listing, stuff like that. It's a way to showcase the house. If you do it first weekend of potential or a new listing, and you can attract a lot there, it can definitely help sell it. But I think that in today's market, a well-priced house that shows well is the best way to sell a house. Overpriced, you see houses that are $10,000, $15,000 overpriced and they just sit there because people lose interest of looking at it. Then there becomes that stigma, like why has it been there so long? When you just bought a house not too long ago, if you see that same house, like you just stop paying attention to it. So I think for both buyers and sellers, just having a realtor that knows the market and can point you in the right direction is the best way. You
mentioned earlier, your previous walk of life dealing with foreclosures, and now you like being on the other side of it, the personal side. You can help people, attain a home and take that next step. Is that the ultimate motivator for you? Is there a mentor for you that kind of guides you along in that process? Where is your self-motivation?
So yeah, definitely. Like you want to see the smile on people's face, handing them the keys, being a part of that. That's phenomenal feeling. As far as mentor, my friend Sean is the one that kind of took me under his wing when I first came in. So he's taught me a lot and just kind of pointed me in the right direction. So that's kind of, I think a driver for both of us is, just being a part of that great day. Like you said, it could be stressful. When the stress is all over, hopefully it's worth it. So we want to be a part of that.
Pop a bottle of champagne and enjoy.
Yeah,
all right, we're going to go ahead and do a little rapid fire segment here, okay? So whatever comes to your mind, just go ahead and throw it out there. The number one question that you get from someone buying a home?
It's usually about money.
Okay, number one question you get from someone selling a home?
Again, definitely money, right? Yeah. How do I get the most?
You got to secure the bag, right? That's
yep,
what it's all
100%.
about. Best part of your job?
Closing. That day, giving people the keys to their new home.
The worst part of your job? Don't say me.
I would say worst part is just never stopping. I'm my own boss, but it's 7 days a week, sometimes 24 hours a day. You get text questions, stuff like this. Have to see this house right now. It's 3 a.m. We can't.
Well, and really too, it's people are working. A lot of people are working 8 to 4, 9 to 5
100%.
type of jobs. So when they have time to think about the home and look at homes, it's when you're supposed to be at home with your family as well.
100%. It's also the best though, because I have a lot of freedom to see my son see this. So it has its pros and cons.
Up and coming neighborhood in Metro Detroit, if you had to name one?
Yours was one, Hazel Park.
Right.
And I think a lot of the northern communities, Romeo, Leonard, Oxford, there's a lot going on out there as well.
Okay. Advice you'd give to someone thinking about becoming a realtor?
It's not easy. Lots of work. Have to be self-motivated. Have to have, self-motivation, stuff like that. So it's not as easy as everyone thinks it is. A lot of people think it's just, let me come here, I'm gonna make $1 million and I'm gonna live this awesome life, and it's not.
I'm gonna sell this $500,000
Yeah,
house and I'll live
100%.
off that for 7 months.
Right.
Yeah. All right, who do you think is gonna take the Super Bowl?
It's gonna be between whoever wins the Titans-Chiefs game.
Okay, all right, I think it's Chiefs or Niners. I don't know, we'll see.
I keep saying that, they keep
They're
winning,
really
so I understand.
Yeah.
I want Mahomes to win, but the way what's his face is running over everybody.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah,
I
oh
know.
my God. Yeah.
All right, well, man, we could talk about football all day as well.
Yeah,
And
for
real
sure.
estate. Bogey with you, Mike Gale of Keller Williams Lakeside. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.